Hi, I'm Matt Meyer with SparkHound. One of the more amazing features of the OpenAI system is the code generation functionality. So I thought it would be good to create something, a quick interface. We're going to use Power Apps in this situation to connect to the OpenAI system and do some code generation. Just to give you an idea, one of how to create a custom connector that's going to connect out into an API, just like this OpenAI system, and to show that you can really use the Power Apps system to do pretty much whatever you want, even connect into the OpenAI system. Now, when I talked to CEO Sean Usher about AI doing code generation, the first thing that came to his mind was, can we use this to replace you? And I said, sure. So let's get going. Okay, where we'll start is with creation of the OpenAI deployment, and you're going to need to request this in your tenant. So this is not something you just simply create right now, but you can request this, and once you're approved, you can create the Azure OpenAI system. I am going to take a look here at the model deployments. These are fairly easy to deploy. You can see I've got a couple here that I've deployed already. We're going to concentrate on this one, the Text DaVinci 3. This is the OpenAI standard for both chat and code. It actually works super well for code and understanding your prompts. Some in the Code DaVinci 2 is an earlier model. This one does really well if you're actually sending it code. You do need to kind of format it and send it correctly. For what we're going to be doing here, though, I'm going to create this. I'm going to use this Text DaVinci 3 here. What we're looking at for this is we're looking into what is going to be my endpoint. My endpoint is going to be this particular URL, and we can call this by looking at the various API endpoints for that. So when we look at this, if I go into my model deployment here, I can click on go to Azure OpenAI Studio, and this is my playground for everything that I'm doing inside of the Azure OpenAI system. Now this will load in just a second. Maybe we'll speed it up here. And there we go. So we've got this open. You can see here I've got a chat playground and we've got a completions playground. The completions is for code, and chat, of course, is for chat. So if I go here into completions, I'm going to select a particular deployment. My deployment here is going to be our Text DaVinci 3. And I can start typing in here. So one of the really cool things I can do here is I can just ask it to give me some code. So let's try this out. Let's say, okay, create a method in C# that reverses a string. All right, I'll click generate and it'll think for a second, and then the API will come back. The chat comes back with, here we go. We got reverse a string. It named it for me, and I've got a character array, and I just do an array reverse, and it returns the string reversed. So there you go. That goes ahead and does that very easily, very quickly. So what we can do here is we can take a look at the code. I'm going to switch to C#, and this is how you would implement this in a program. So if I were building something that was going to call the Azure OpenAI and to get this very thing, I take a look and see what my prompt was, the temperature and the max tokens and all this. So what all this basically means is that the temperature is telling the AI how creative it can be. The max tokens is really how much information it gives back to you. And then the other things are for when does it stop, because you do kind of have to tell the AI when to stop. There are some instances where it will keep repeating this. So if I sometimes when you ask it to create something to reverse a string, it will not only create you this one method, but it'll create many different methods going through all the permutations of how to reverse a string. So you don't want that. You just kind of want one good one, and then you can go from there. So anyway, those are the things that you can set up for your API. This also has a nice drop that I can do in JSON, and this will help us later on when we're hooking this up. All right. Very cool stuff. Very interesting. One of the also really interesting things here is that I can get rid of this and I can just start to chat with this particular model. So I don't have to do code in this. I can just say, what is the capital of Nebraska? Right? And I'll generate that, and the AI will come back with Nebraska is Lincoln. All right. So this does both, and it's really a fun and interesting thing that you can play with and use. So on that side, how do I go ahead and implement this particular API? And what I've done is I've used Postman to generate something that I would do if I'm reaching out and grabbing this kind of stuff in the real world. So I have my authorization that's done here. I've got some headers. My header, I have to have the content type is application/JSON. The authorization needs something called an API key, and the API key then will have what we need into. It's the key that we get from our area here. Now you can see the key. If I go view code, it's got my key down here. I'm not going to show it to you, but I can copy that and I can paste that into the authorization header, and that'll generate for me in Postman. So if we go here to the body, you'll notice that this looks very similar to what I did over here. So here is the body. And that's pretty much exactly what I've created here. And if I go ahead and here's the URL that I got from, again, this right here. This is my entire endpoint. I do need to have the completions, and I do need to have the API version so it knows what it's calling. The API version is the last time that this is something that I get from Azure. So if I go over here and I say send, this is a post command. That is my verb. I'm posting to this particular URL, or this endpoint. I've got my authorization, and I have my headers and my body. I'm going to send it this. Let's go ahead and send that. And this will take just a second. I get a return back from my API. Should say pretty much same thing. So in this case, I am saying create a method in C# to use the Graph API to connect to a SharePoint list named Matt's List. Let's see what we get here. So we get all this gobbledygook here that has some stream writer, and I'm not sure if this is very good here, but string endpoint graph. There's the Microsoft thing. There you go. Yeah. So it's got pretty good stuff there. So what we'll do here is I have this, and let's make this a little smaller. Let's say C# to, we'll just say the same thing, reverse a string. That way we get something that comes back a little bit, a little bit smaller, so that we can use that when we're creating this. So here it is. There's return the string array. So you'll notice I've got all of my information here and some other stuff. This is my return, and I'm going to need this when I go to my next step. So my next step here is I need an interface, right? I can't send people to my playground because they're going to have to be licensed for it and everything else. And I don't really have the time or the desire to write a program to go ahead and call all this stuff out. So what can I do? And the answer is I can use Power Apps and a custom connector to very, very quickly configure something and be able to go out and return that information for me. Now I can do this with any API. It's something that's really handy, especially if I don't have a Swagger file. And a Swagger file is something that is used. It's a definition file basically that says everything that API can do. I don't have that in this case. I just have what I'm using, or what I've got in Postman. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a custom connector, and I do that by going into More, and I go into Discover All, and this gives me all my information here. So I'll go down to custom connections, and in here, and of course this is a This is a premium connection, so you are going to have a license in order to do this. I'll go to new custom connector, and I'm going to say create from blank. I'm going to name it, and this is just going to, you can see I've got something in autofill there, but I want to call this, our OpenAI text 3. Okay, so let's continue that, and we can do all kinds of stuff here. You can upload an icon, so it looks like, we can grab this OpenAI icon and kind of upload that if we want. Let's see if I have that. I know I have it somewhere. Let's see if I've got it in my downloads list. Yeah, so I've got an OpenAI logo. I'll just go ahead and upload that so it looks nice, and you can theme it a little bit if you want. And then I'm going to put the host in here, and the host is going to be something. It's the URL without. It's just the base URL, and if I put a scheme here as HTTPS, that means I don't use this information here. So I'm just going to grab that, and I'll copy that, and I'll paste it in there, and there we go. That's our host. Very easy. And you can connect into on-premises data gateways. So if I had something here that it may be connected to an API that's behind my firewall or something like that, I can absolutely do that. So next we go into security. And so I go into my authorization type. As I said before, the authorization type is going to be an API key. The parameter label. So this is what it is inside of what do I need to do inside of my area here. So what I'll do here is I'll go to my authorization, and blanked it out for you. The key is going to be API key, and I'll grab that right there, and I'll go here, and the parameter label there, API key, and I'm going to put it in the header. You can put it in the query or the header. This one is going to be in the header for our authentication. Now, we're not going to put in the key in this area. We're going to do that when we actually create the connection later on. So let's go on to the definition. Now, the definition, you can see it's completely blank here, and I start by creating a new action. So this action is what do I call it in Power Automate, or what do I call it in our case, Power Apps? So we're going to say get code, and description is get code, and the operation ID. And so this is the actual thing I need. Unique string to identify the operation is going to be get code. All right, visibility here. So visibility, you have none, advanced, internal, and important. So none just means, it's none. It's just going to be there. Advanced means in Power Automate, it's going to be hidden behind that advanced button. Internal means it's hidden from the user, and important means that the user gets it first. So we're going to say that this is get code, and I'm not going to fill any of this out. I'm just going to keep it there. The next is going to be the request. So, and I'm going to use something called import from sample. Now, I'm going to do this because I actually have something in my Postman that I can use to do this. So again, this is going to be, the verb is going to be post. My URL, I can go ahead and grab that from my post, and I'll grab the whole thing. This is going to include the query string, and we'll add that query string later on. But it'll grab it from this. So we're going to grab that. Now my headers, I do want to have a content type, and so I'm going to put in content dash type is application. Yeah, spelled it right. JSON. Now the body here, this is what I'm sending to the API. And the body here, I'm going to grab not this, I'm actually going to grab it from here. All right, so I'll grab it all the way here. Now, what I could also do is I could come here and I could grab it from here as well. Same kind of thing, right? It's just the prompt of what I'm sending it. So I'll come here and I'm going to paste this into the body, and I'll say import. Now, right away, it comes out and it says, okay, well, your query is going to be this. This is your API version. Here's your header that we put in, and then we've got body. And body, if I go into edit, it's going to have all of my parameters that I put in there. So I'll go back here. We'll come back to that in just a moment. And we're going to start here with the query string. So the query string, the API version, I'm going to edit this, and we'll go back to our playground here. And remember, this ending version or API version is going to be this. Now, I always want it to be this, and I don't want that to change. I don't want the user to mess with it. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say, is this required? Yes. Where is my visibility? It's going to be internal. Now I have to put in a default for this. So internal means that it's going to be used by us. Okay. So there we've got it, and we can go ahead and click back, and you'll see this changed. Here, the API now is starred as being required. So our headers, again, same kind of thing. Edit. I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say our default value. Let's set it as required and internal. So again, we have to put in a default value. Application. Yep, spelled it right. /JSON. There we go. All right, so that'll take care of that for me. I'm going to click back, and I'm going to confirm that it is indeed starred. So now we're going to come in here, and I'll play with our body. So a lot of this I can just simply set as internal and not necessarily required. So I'll say this best of. This is going to be internal. Back. So I want best of, and I want it. Sorry, I want it as internal, but I also want to set a default value. And what I'll do is I'm going to put this over on another screen. And I'm just going to put in the things that we normally put in for our thing. So this is best of. Best of is a integer. I'm going to put it as a 1. Right, and see, this is going to pop up saying get code has an error or something there. So validation, we need to set required for that. We don't really need to do that, so we'll go back. Oh, maybe we do. Let's take a look here. What is this saying? So set required for this parameter set as an internal visibility and default value specified. Yeah, I really don't want it to be required, so let's come back to that. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to come in and update the body. So we'll edit the body here. And so I'm going to say, is this required? The body, we have the best of part of the body. So we're going to edit that, and I'm going to say, is this required? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say this is internal, and we need to put in a default value. This is an integer. So I'll set that to 1. That is what we have in our, if you remember, right here, a best of is 1. We'll come back and we'll click back here. And now you see this is starred. So frequency penalty, again, this is going to be required yes, internal yes. Now this will pop up saying we need a default value. So our frequency penalty is 0. And we'll click back, come into max tokens. Now max tokens is something that we do need to kind of take a look at. The max value here, we're going to say this is required. It is going to be an internal. So our default value on this one is something that is set in for the ChatGPT-3 requirement. And what that's going to look like is 4,000 tokens. Now I'm going to set it to the maximum right here. Normally you would kind of decide what this is going to be determined on your own use. I'm just going to set it up here to the max just because, well, it's kind of fun. Let's click back. And from here, we're going to go to the presence penalty. Let's edit that. Presence penalty is 0. So again, yes, internal. We're going to set this to 0. And looks good there. We're going to go back, and we're going to come to the prompt. Now, the prompt is something I definitely want the user to do. So we're not going to put anything in here into the default value. This is going to be required, and I'm going to say this is important because I do want the user to kind of go ahead and update this. Okay, go back, and now we're going to come to the stop. So this is basically, you can put in stop tokens. So when you tell it that when you send your prompt, you can end your prompts with a specific stop character, so that each new suggestion that it gives you, it has this specific value. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put this in just to have something. Um, so let's go. Yes, required. Yes, it's internal. And here we go. All right, you don't have to have a stop, but it helps when you're writing this stuff to have something to kind of say stop at this. And our temperature. This is going to be how much we how much creativity it can have. I can have a 0 or I can have 1. I'm going to put it 1. I want it not very creative, but let's set it to required internal and 1. Back. And then finally, our top P. Top P is going to be 0.5. So our value here, required internal 0.5. All right, good to go. Back. And it looks like we have an error. We'll check on that. Does not look like we have an error. All right, so we're good to go here. So we've got that set. The next thing we're going to put is for our response. So what is the information that we're going to get back? This is helpful in Power Automate and in Power Apps, because you do need to deal with that data. You want to call the API and you want to get something back. So I'm going to add a default response. Again, our headers here, we're going to have a content type. And the content type is going to be application JSON. That's going to be required. Now, what other headers can we use? Can we get? So we'll bring in our Postman again, and let's take a look. So our headers here. This is for the request. Our headers for the response are over here. So we've got different things that we can grab. So our cache control, we have to revalidate these kind of things. So what's interesting here that we may want? I think that the OpenAI model is something that I may want at some point in time. So what I'm going to do is I'll grab this header and I'll just put it in here as being something that I want, and I'll put the expected value, which is going to be a text value. Okay. Put that in there. So now we've got these headers that we want to see. Now, basically what I'll do is everything in that 200 here in the body, our 200 response, I'll go ahead and grab. So from the whole JSON, I'll grab that and I'll paste that in here. I'll click import, and then we can go ahead and take a look into this default, what that looks like. So now you see our default response. We're going to have our 2 content types that we are expecting, and then here are all the things that we want to do. All right. What this allows us to do then is we give it the schema, and it allows us now to grab the information from this from the API and put it into something. Okay, so we are done here. Let's go ahead and create the connector. Okay, that took just a second, but here it is back. Now, from here, we're going to try to test. So this is where we're actually going to create the connection, and we'll put in the API key here. So we'll click New Connection. It's going to ask me about the API key. I'll go ahead and paste my key in there, and I'll click Create. That adds the thing there, and now I have a connector inside of here, OpenAI Text 3. Okay, so we're good to go there. So we'll go back into that guy. Let's edit this. That's going to have the API key. All right. So what we'll do is more into discover all, and then into our custom connectors. So now that we have that connection created and the API key attached, we can go ahead and test it. So let's go into that and into test. And so let's have something here. So when we test, you can see here's all of our default stuff. We're not touching anything, and we're gonna say in C sharp reverse a string. So let's make that a little bit better here. Let's make our prompt a little bit better, and we'll say create a method where C sharp reverses a string. And let's click test operation. This will go ahead and use our operation. Go ahead. So we got a 200, so it's working. And here we go. So in it returns back how to reverse a string. So awesome. It is all working. It's working as expected. So now I can go ahead and use this connector inside of my Power App. So we're going to go create. And one of the really, really great things about Power Apps is I can go ahead and do this kind of work. I've now connected into an API. I don't have to wire anything up. I don't have to do anything special. All I'm doing here is I'm creating a Canvas app, and I'm going to say it's for a tablet. And I say my app name here. We're going to call this OpenAI Text DaVinci 3. Da Vinci. We'll give it the V. Anyway, let's create that. This will go ahead and load up. Okay, first thing I'm going to do, this is just blank. We've got a blank screen here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add data. Now the data, I'm going to go to my connector, and it's going to be for my OpenAI Text 3. Easy peasy. Once I've got that, really all I do is, it's going to go ahead and put that on there. Now here in my data, you can see on that. Now I can call that from any session. So what I'm going to do is I need something to send the prompt. So that is going to be not an S, it is going to be a text input. And I'll put that on my screen here. And then I need something that is going to read from the response, and that I will have as a text label. And we'll put that right here. Let's put it right here, and let's make it big. All right, just like that. This one, I'm going to put a border on this so that I can tell where it begins and ends. So there we go. For the text input, it already has a border, and let's just make that kind of big. Now, I want more than one word, so let's in here make this, instead of a single line, I'm going to make this multi-line so I can have lots of stuff in here. And then what I like to do with my text inputs is if we go ahead and hit Alt, we can kind of use this. Text input stays there as actual text, and I have to delete that each time. I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is inside my properties, I'm going to go down here, and you see the default. I'll just clear out the default. I don't want anything in there for the default, but I do want a hint. I do want to tell my user what to put in here. And so here is my hint text, and I'll say for my hint text, this is going to be put AI prompt here. Okay, now what that does is it puts us here, but if I hit Alt here and I get in there, the text doesn't stay. So it gives me a fresh box each time, and that's really what I want. Now I need something that's going to send the prompt to the API. So I'll add a button 1, and then I like to always have something that is going to clear stuff out. So I'll do insert and yet another button, and this, I'm going to say text is going to be clear. And with this button, I'm going to say this is going to be send to AI. Okay, there we go. So here we have our two things. And so what I'll do here is, in order for me to return something here, I'm going to tell this what I want it to be. And what I want this to be is I'm going to set this to a variable. So what I've got here is in sending to the AI, what I want to do is I want to call my application. So call my connector. So on select, I'm going to make this bigger. What I'm going to do is I'll say set, we're going to set a variable, and I'll call the variable RAI response, right? Comma, and now I'm going to set it equal to something. So what I want to set this equal to is going to be the return from my data. So the return from my data, or the return from the API, I'm going to call this right here. So here's my Open API connector. So I'll say Open AI, and you see here it goes. Here's my get code. There's my thing, and you can see in here. Here's all the stuff that I wanna put in. So what is my prompt going to be? It's going to be the value of what my text field is. So this is going to be text input one text. Okay, so that's what that's going to be. I'm going to hit a comma here, and then I'll just put in all the defaults. So 1, 0, 5. That was my daughter coming home from school. Anyway, so let's go ahead and finish this out. This is going to be 0.5, 0.5, comma, default is 0, comma, presence penalty is going to be 0, comma, max tokens here is going to be 4,000, and our best of is going to be 1, and then of course our stop is going to be this. Okay, now that we have that, let's take a look at our text screens here. So here we have the text for our response, and what we're going to do is we're going to set that to the response of our return from our API. So what I'm going to do is I'll say first, gives me the first record, and we're going to put in here our source, and our source is going to be our var. Where are we at here? Let's go back. Our send to AI is going to be var AI response. All right, here we go. Oh, we got an error here. What is our error? Oh, no error. Yes, there is. Maybe there is. There we go. Oh, yeah. There we go. How about that? There we go. All right, so that's set up there, and now we can look at for our var AI response. So let's go back here, and we're going to set our text here to be AI response dot. Now remember, this is our response, so we have something that comes back. So let's take a look at what we want to look at here, and we see we've got choices, and then we're going to have a text. So let's go ahead and grab that. So we're getting the first one. So this is the first of our choices. And so it's going to be the text. So how we're doing that, we'll go first and AI response dot choices. Okay. And then we'll put that there, go dot text. All right. So that gives us the first of our choices response. So if there are multiple choices, then, we could do that, but we're just going to grab the first one. All right, so that puts that there. So now we've got this, and finally we're doing our clear. So on select, what we want to do is, first of all, I want to clear my variables. So how we do that is we're going to say set var AI response, comma blank, and that's a method. So we're going to do that. Okay, and then I want to clear my source here. So what we're going to do is we will have reset and then text input 1. Okay, and so that will take care of our setting up, and that's really it. we have the API all set up, so we can go ahead and try to play this now. So let's play this here and let's go. So what do we want to do? So let's do the same thing we have been doing, I guess. So create a method in C# that reverses a string. We're going to send that to the AI. It's going to go out. This connects to it, and there we go. Here's our response. Now, remember, this is center justified, so that's why it's coming out here in the middle. But it gives us that to reverse a string. So now let's say we're going to say create a method that reverses a string that is optimized for memory. MEMORY. So this actually should give us a little bit different here. So it gives us a char array. So there we go. It gives us a little bit of a char array. All right. So there we have it. I kind of want to play around with this a little bit. So give me just a second. So let's do something a little bit more difficult. So I'm going to hit this, and basically what I want to do is I'm giving it some pretty complex words here. I want to do something like, so given a string S consisting of words and spaces, return the length of the last word in the string. And the word is a maximum substring consisting of non-space characters only. So we define what a word is, and we want to grab the last one. So here I'm going to say in C#. All right, so let's send this to. I'm going to send this to the AI. Now, typically, how you would really kind of work on this is, you're going to. Oh wow, okay, it came back pretty quick. So yeah, it's going to split, and it's going to return it, and it's going to pop out there. So yeah, kind of interesting how it decides to go ahead and do this. Yeah, interesting. So if it's not a word, okay, that's kind of fun. Anyway, so here we go, and because this is not just code generation, this is a chat bot. We can go in here and ask it other questions. So this is responding here by generating this code. But what we can also do is, in this very same thing, we can ask the chat to do normal things. So something like, what is Star Wars? It will respond to things like this as well. So it'll go out and it'll look, so is Merrick's Epic Space Opera recorded by George Lucas. There you go. So pretty interesting and very quickly done. So I hope you learned something here, and we'll be playing a lot more with the OpenAI system here very soon.